Good morning, Patriots. I'm Bill McKnight, the co-founder, along with a 10-year-old girl in Texas, of a nonprofit organization called State Funeral for World War II Veterans. We launched on Labor Day of 2017. With me is Captain Joe Hill, who is retired from the United States Navy. You know, Joe is older than I am, and I'm not going to say how much older he is than I, but I once asked him, I said, Joe, what's the most fun you ever had? And he said, without a doubt, it was partying with those boys when they came home from Gettysburg. So that's what I recall. Seriously, Joe is from Louisiana, and he attended Southern Methodist University on a full track scholarship, and he was part of a Southwest Conference championship track team when he was there. Today, we're going to present 3 awards. The George Marshall Award, given annually to a famous American who exemplifies the service and sacrifice of the 16 million men and women who wore the uniform in World War II. We're going to present the Woody Williams Award to the state chair and national board member that has done the most to promote and expand our mission during 2020. And third, the Caisson Award goes to the top volunteers who helped us achieve success. Today is a special day. It is Remembrance Day in America. At exactly this time, 79 years ago, Robert R. Scott, a machinist mate on the USS California, was at his battle station. He was the head of air compressor department that pushed air deep into every inch of that battleship, allowing the men to fight. His compartment was flooded as a result of the Japanese torpedo hit. The remainder of the personnel evacuated as the water rose. Scott refused to leave. His last words were, "This is my station, and I will stay and give them air to fight so long as the guns are sounding." He received the Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously 79 years ago right now. At this time, I'm calling on Joe Hill to read the mission statement of State Funeral for World War II Veterans. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Bill. When I look at the tremendous success that this organization has enjoyed, there must be something powerful that is driving that success. And I feel like that it is the mission statement. You're all familiar with it, but let's repeat it. To convince the President of the United States to designate a state funeral for the last Medal of Honor recipient, a state funeral for the last Medal of Honor recipient from World War II as a final salute to the 16 million men and women of the greatest generation who served in the armed forces from 1941 to 1945. An additional reason that this mission statement is so powerful is that the idea for a state funeral for the last recipient of the Medal of Honor from World War II is the brainchild of a young American, a Texas schoolgirl, Rayble McKnight. Rayble came up with the idea while trying to determine a way to honor her godfather, Medal of Honor recipient, Walter Ehlers, Normandy, June 1944. Good job, Rayble.
Thank you, Captain. At this time, we want to read a list of the states who have passed our resolution through both houses of the state legislature. Our state chairs have 2 primary duties. First is to get their state legislature to pass our resolution through the legislature. And number 2, to get a congressional delegation letter to the White House, which is a letter unanimously signed by both U.S. senators and all the congressmen from that state. At this time, I want to recognize those states where they have passed a resolution through their state legislature. Texas, God bless them in Austin. Louisiana, God bless them in Baton Rouge. In fact, they've got one of Woody Williams' fantastic Gold Star monuments right there on the Capitol grounds in Louisiana. Missouri, led by Richard LaBrash, who was our 2018 Woody Williams Award winner. Montana, led by Barbara Skelton, who has a governor's proclamation, and we'll get the governor's proclamation replaced by a state resolution when the legislature gets back in session. South Dakota, led by Bill Casper. Tennessee, led by a husband and wife team, Beth and Charlie Self. They were the 2019 Woody Williams Award winners. Rhode Island, led by U.S. Navy graduate Matthew Elias, who has his state house resolution finished and is waiting on the state Senate to act. And at this time, Captain Joe Hill is going to talk about the states that have had success in achieving a congressional delegation letter.
Arkansas, under the leadership of Chuck Adkins. Idaho, under the leadership of Abe Abramson. Louisiana, under the leadership of Craig Hamer. Minnesota, led by Don Leslie, our 2019 Caisson Award winner. Missouri, under the leadership of Richard LaBrash. Tennessee. Utah, led by our 2018 Caisson winner, Randy Edwards. West Virginia, under Todd Morris, with help from Brent Casey, our Kentucky chairman. Montana, under the dual leadership of Carol Lalani and Barbara Skelton.
Thank you very, very much. At this time, I'd like to present our Caisson Award, which goes to our top volunteers. A caisson is a two-wheeled cart used by armies all over the world to carry ammunition. But today, in a mechanized world and a mechanized army, a caisson bears the body of the fallen and of military veterans. Our Caisson Award for 2020 goes to two women in the state of Montana, Barbara Skelton and Carol Lalani. Our organization got to know Carol through the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. And we owe such a debt of gratitude to them, because when we started this, we didn't have 16 states standing behind us. We didn't have 20,000 petitions to the president. All we had was a letter from Mr. Watson, the head of the National World War II Museum. That's all we had, was that piece of paper. But we have certainly taken that and multiplied it like loaves and fishes. And the multiplication takes place through people like Barbara and like Carol, who were recruited by Danny Reeves, and in record time were able to produce in their state the state resolution and the congressional delegation letter. So we will, as Woody Williams would say, we're going to put this on the mule train, and we're going to head it up towards Montana. But our thanks to Barbara for your leadership, and our thanks to Carol for your leadership and all that you've accomplished in a short period of time. At this time, we're going to present put those back over here, excuse me. At this time, we're going to present the Woody Williams Award to a man who has done so much. And just as Woody Williams was relentless in his accomplishing a mission in 1945, so has this person worked relentlessly to accomplish our mission in 2020. And I apologize, because I had to be a little dishonest with him, letting him think this was going to someplace else. But to another person, I'm going to flip it over to our Medal of Honor recipient, Woody Williams. Woody, tell us about who's winning the award in 2020 that bears your name, sir.
Well, I am certainly honored, Bill, to be a part of this program. Absolutely. Well, the award goes annually to the state chair and national board member who does the most to promote and expand the mission of the state funeral for World War II veterans. In 2018, as you said, the award went to Richard L. LaBroche of Missouri. Member who does the most, I got on the wrong line. In 2019, a husband and wife team of Tennessee, Charlie and Belle Sell, won the award. Then in 2020, the recipient has devoted many hours to convincing the president to give the World War II generation a final salute through a state funeral for the last Medal of Honor recipient. And there are only two of us now remaining. He is a founding national board member, former president of Bass Pro Shops, a graduate of Northwestern University and the University of Chicago. He and his wife Penny and son Logan are patriotic Americans who love this country. I am honored, extremely honored, to present this award that bears my name to Ron Ramsayer of Massachusetts. Thank you, Ron and Jenny and Logan, for all that you have done to make this a reality.
Thank you so much, Woody Williams. Woody, I'd be remiss before we talk a little bit about George Marshall without asking, where were you, sir, 79 years ago this morning? And how did Pearl Harbor change your life?
Well, I was a country boy born in West Virginia, way out in the country. We had no radio and we had no telephone. So the communities, country communities, knew very little of what was going on in the world. I, fortunately or unfortunately, was in the Civilian Conservation Corps that we called the 3 Cs. And on that day, I was in a little town called Whitehall, Montana. We were out there with about 265 other young boys. The oldest probably would have been 25. Most of us were in our 16 to 21 or 22 years old. And after the bombing on the 7th, they called us out on the morning of the 8th and told us that America was going to war. Most of us had never heard of Pearl Harbor, had no concept of what had happened actually on the 7th because radios we didn't have. But they also told us at that point that we had a choice. We were over 18 years of age, since the Civilian Conservation Corps were run by the Army. We had a commanding officer, we had a first sergeant and a mess sergeant and some clerks. If we were over 18, we could go directly into the Army right then. We could enlist and go. But if we were under 18, then of course we would have to have parent consent. Well, I knew I couldn't get parent consent. I was only 17 years old. So they put me on a train and sent me back home. When I got home, my intention was, of course, because we were in war, was to join the Marine Corps. I wanted to join the Marine Corps, not to go to war. I knew nothing about war. I wanted to join the Marine Corps to protect my country and my freedom. And I thought at that point in time in my life, so naive, that we would never even leave the United States of America. We would stay right here and protect this great country of ours. But things didn't work out that way. And eventually, of course, we ended up overseas in the Pacific.
Well, thank you so very much. I know very, very special for all of us listening to know what life was like in America. And of course, how interesting that you were in Montana when you got the news, and the two winners of our Cason Award are our state chairs from Montana. Now, to present the George Marshall Award, I'm going to say a few words about George Marshall and then turn it over to Joe Hill to make the presentation to Woody Williams. George Marshall was the head of the American military in World War II. Many people know him best from the movie Saving Private Ryan when he read aloud the Bixby letter in the movie. He was the boss of Douglas MacArthur in Europe and the boss of Eisenhower in the Pacific. His family immigrated to Virginia in the 17th century, and George Marshall entered the Virginia Military Institute in 1897. And when he graduated, he was at the top of his class, and that he was elected first captain of the Corps of Cadets. He developed a talent for presenting his case to both soldiers and civilians, and had the ability to make his subordinates want to do their best for America and for him. He was beautifully prepared by experience and temperament for winning the Second World War. George Marshall served as the chief of operations of the 1st Army Division in Europe in 1917. And for 5 years after the war, he was the chief aide to General John J. Pershing. As an aside, about every 40 or 50 years, our nation has a non-presidential state funeral. In 1921, the President, Warren G. Harding, held a state funeral for the unknown soldier from the First World War. 1948, President Truman did this for Blackjack Pershing. 1964, the president designated, and that's what they do under law, designated the state funeral for Douglas MacArthur. Marshall was sworn in as Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army on September 1st, 1939, which was the day World War II started. Many historians say that was started when Germany invaded Poland. For the next 6 years, Marshall oversaw the largest organizational surge in the history of the world. When he entered office, the U.S. Armed Forces consisted of fewer than 200,000 men and officers, and under his direction, he expanded it to the point that 16 million Americans served from 1941 to 1945. No greater compliment can be heaped upon his wartime abilities than the words by British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, who simply said, George Marshall was the organizer of our victory. I know that many of you have been to the World War II monument in Washington, D.C. And I want to read to you what George Marshall said. And this is etched on the walls of that monument. And when he said this, the American Army was only about 500,000 strong. And let me tell you, it was in a difficult situation. And this is what he said. We are determined that before the sun sets on this terrible struggle, our American flag will be recognized throughout the world as a symbol of freedom on one hand and of overwhelming force on another. Joe Hill, please make the presentation of the George Marshall Award to Corporal Woody Williams.
Good morning once again, and to you, Chief Warrant Woody.
Thank you, sir.
I know that Woody and our other Marines or sailors that might be on this broadcast, I'm committing a cardinal sin, and that no soldiers, or rather no Marines, no sailors, wears a hat indoors, nor do they salute indoors. But being the senior officer present, I'm the only officer present, I would like to exercise my prerogative and my privilege to salute you. And it's a very great pleasure, personally and professionally, to award you this very significant award from this organization. We hope that you'll enjoy this for years to come and think of us and our work, of which you are a great part of.
Thank you.
Like General Marshall, you have been rewarded for significant service during wartime. Also, like General Marshall and his after the war Marshall Plan rebuilt Europe, you will long be remembered for your compassion for your fellow World War II veterans and your loyalty to the families of the fallen. Compassion and loyalty are not the virtues of youth. They are qualities earned through years of hard choices, brave decisions, bold ideas. And when these qualities are present in a man, others see a life well lived. They see a man very much like you, Woody.
Thank you.
God bless. Congratulations. And accept the Navy Marine Corps highest salutation. Bravo, Zulu. Well done.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Captain.
Captain.
Well, Bill, let me.
Woody, here is since the mule train hadn't made it, you know, the joke I always tell is that Woody lives so far out in the country, he's got to come towards town to go hunting. So one of these is yet to make it to his house. Hopefully it'll show up today, but at least this is what it looks like. And Woody, please, gosh, thank you on behalf of all of us, and please share a word with us.
Please let me respond. I am extremely honored to receive the George C. Marshall Award because the award represents an icon in the history of this world. Most of us surviving World War II remember the Marshall Plan, a program that rescued all of Europe and saved millions of lives. The Marshall Plan was typical of America. Although we and other countries saved the world from a total different way of life that we would have endured, a life that we can't even imagine, America came to the rescue because of the brilliant mind of George C. Marshall. General Marshall devoted his life and energy to serving America, and as a result left an imprint that makes him a part of history equal to, in my opinion, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Harry S. Truman. All three of those and George C. Marshall did something towards saving our America and our way of life. I treasure this award, and it will make me mindful that being an American is one of the most precious gifts I have ever received. Thank you, Bill McNutt, and all of those who have given me this great honor. And may God continue to bless our America.
Woody, thank you so much for your life and for your words. And I'd like, we ask our state chairs to send in a couple of questions, and I wonder if we could ask you a couple of questions selected at random from our state chairs for you to answer. Is that okay?
Certainly, yes. Wow. Yes.
Where were you when this photograph was taken? People say the most famous photograph in American history is this. Where were you when this photograph was taken?
Well, I was about 1,000 yards from the base of Mount Suribachi, right along the edge of the first airfield on Iwo Jima. our mission that day for my unit was to cross the airfield and to eliminate pillboxes, concrete pillboxes. We call them bunkers today, but they were pillboxes to we World War II guys, to eliminate the enemy within a group of pillboxes that were protecting the airfield. And as I was lying on the sand, other Marines around me began yelling something about a flag, and some of them were standing firing their weapons into the air like they were kind of celebrating, and they were all looking toward Mount Suribachi. So naturally, I joined them, and when I looked around, the big flag, the second flag, had just reached its peak and was flying on Mount Suribachi. And I remember that very vividly. And it did something for the whole spirit, for everyone's spirit, Navy, Marine Corps, and all of those who were on that island that day.
Thank you very, very much. And final question, how many days did you fight on Iwo Jima? Were you wounded, and were you ever evacuated?
Okay. Number one, we tried to get in on the second day because we were not part of the initial invasion. The 4th and 5th Marine Divisions were those who hit the beach first, and we were in a reserve. But because of the casualties suffered for the first day, they notified us about midnight on the ship that we would be going in the next day. And we attempted to get in that day, but the Marines ashore had not been able to get enough ground yet to permit us to come in. There was no place for us to go. So they took us back and put us back aboard ship for another night. So then on the second day, we did get in. The Marines, 4th Marine Division had moved forward enough that we could find someplace to land. And so I was there for 34 of the 36 days. I was wounded on March 6th, and the corpsman who treated me put a tag on me and told me that I needed to go back to the aid station, which were behind us, of course, closer to the beach. And I said, we had some very new Marines with us. This was their first day in combat. And they were sort of under my control because I was an acting sergeant at that time. And I said, I'm not going to go. And of course, he told me that the rule was when I tag you, you must go. And I tore the tag off. So I said, I don't have to go because I don't have a tag. And he wasn't very pleased with me, but I stayed and I was not evacuated. Took me a while to recover, but we continued to go.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Your dear friend Walt Ehlers received the Congressional Medal of Honor in Normandy in 1944, and his goddaughter Rabel originated this idea for a state funeral for the last of Walt Ehlers' Medal of Honor friends. Why do you believe it's important that the president honor the World War II generation through this funeral, Woody?
Well, you know, it is going to become part of history. And I think one of your articles said there's about 335,000 of us still living in the United States. But in just a few years, we will be extinct. And we do have a tendency to forget. And we must not ever forget World War II because it really saved the world, as far as I'm concerned. Not because of what I did, but because of the courage and the commitment of, as you said, about 16 million people that said, you're not going to take my country and my freedom away from me.
Thank you very much. In World War II, the Japanese and Germans were so sure that their young men would outfight the young Americans like Woody and Charles Coolidge, the other Medal of Honor recipient from the Second World War that's still living. They were certain that their sons would defeat the spoiled sons of democracy. The spoiled sons of democracy would give way to the sons of dictatorship. They were wrong. Help us provide a great salute to the greatest generation by convincing the president and the president-elect to use their sole authority to designate a state funeral in Washington for the final Medal of Honor recipient from the Second World War. And now to quote Douglas MacArthur on the deck of the battleship Missouri, these proceedings are closed. Thank you for watching, and congratulations to Ron Ramsire, Carol Olani, Barb Skelton, and most importantly, to our 2020 George Marshall Award recipient, Medal of Honor recipient, Woody Williams. Woody, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill, very, very much for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. We are adjourned. Have a good day.